Du, 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 du.
We should be live now, right?
Now we are live. Hello, everybody, and thanks for tuning into this small talk between me and Emil. We're just gonna do a little bit small talk here in the beginning until everybody get a chance to join. But maybe to warm up, I think we should have to publicly declare that we are actually friends offline. So I think we've known each other for now 7 or 8 years. So no one will be offended if we tease or throw a little bit of banter back and forth. But yeah, Emil, thank you so much for being willing to participate in this small live session.
Yeah, thanks for the invite, Steffen. I looked forward to it. This is not my first time doing a LinkedIn Live, but it's been a year or so. So I feel like a lot of things happened with LinkedIn Live since then.
Yeah.
And I can see the comments are nicely going in now. We can see everything is working. I remember the first time I tried LinkedIn Live, nothing was working at all. So that might be why I didn't do it really ever since.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But can people just type in the chat which country they're within? Then we can just double check that things are floating through, and then we'll start to slowly kick off. And maybe just for context, then normally we chat I would say almost weekly on Facebook, but it's kind of dried out the last few months, and I suspect there might be some correlation to what has happened to you at Sleeknote and now becoming a CMO now in a new company. So I'm excited to interrogate you a little bit on these things, Emil. But maybe you can just kind of what has happened with the kind of broadly speaking with the transition from, or what happened at Sleeknote and where you're working now. If we can warm up with that.
Yeah, sure. We'll get into the meat fast, but 1 minute version of it. Co-founded Sleeknote 8 years ago. CMO at Sleeknote. We grew that to a decent size and sold it in February, March this year to Drip, marketing automation platform, one of the biggest one in the world. And there's a good amount of overlaps between Drip and Sleeknote, and the product was a good fit, the culture was a good fit, and so on. We can talk about that for hours, but I don't think that we should in this session here. I took over the responsibility of the marketing in Drip and Sleeknote. So of course, this is one company now. We merged everything together and recently took over sales as well. So sales and marketing as one big team.
Did you take over sales
a month ago? Yeah.
Whoa.
So sales and marketing in one team, and it's
really
I'll be honest, this is one of the things that I wanted to do with Sleeknote as well before we were acquired, is to merge sales and marketing into one revenue team. I think I talked about this with you, Steffen, as well years ago. And now there's an opportunity to have sales and marketing in the same team.
Yeah.
There's still individual teams, but sales and marketing is, all under the same kind of house that I facilitate right now with amazing leaders under it. So a sales leader and product marketing leader, a growth leader, and so on.
I didn't actually know that had happened. But looking forward to hear how that goes then.
Yeah, so far I would recommend everyone to do it. No, it wasn't. But it makes a lot of sense to have sales and marketing under the same, because you would have combined goals, you would go in the same direction.
Yeah.
It removes a lot of the friction, and you can add force to wherever you see an opportunity. You can add a lot of force to it, where in the past you might have seen something in marketing and you started to do it even more, but sales, it was not aligned with sales goals. So you would have that kind of friction, or that's completely removed if you have the same goals and you run the same direction. So I'm looking forward to it a lot. It's it's fairly new, so we can talk mostly about marketing today, But I do think sales and marketing are so combined and should be talked about in the same.
It's funny, I took the opposite direction at Dreamdata. I started out as running sales and marketing, and as soon as we got good salespeople on board, I realized I'm not a good sales leader. So I moved into
I'm not a good sales leader either. I'll be clear about that. I'm not a good sales leader. We have an amazing sales leader in our team, and I would definitely not be a good daily sales leader, by no means. We also have amazing marketing leaders with each of their teams. So it's not me that's doing the sales all hands meeting with like, come on, let's hit these numbers and so on. Like, I'm not the guy for that at all. But setting a direction and moving in the same direction and goals and alignment across the organization, like,
super cool.
I'm okay at that. And then I can have the leaders really thrive in what they do.
Okay, you're one of the most micro detail persons I know, so I know you'll be good at that. And people, just meanwhile, before you answer, then do feel like you're part of the conversation. So if anything we say, just type in the question, we'll pick it up pretty much as soon as it comes in. But maybe can you talk a little bit about how has it been to like going from being the CMO at Sleeknote and then transitioning into, does it feel like a completely new product, a new market, a new ideal customer profile, or how is this kind of transition from one brand to another been?
I think if you want to take some general outputs that everyone here that's watching right now could get something out of, I do think that we could kind of see it as, if I had to start as a CMO, or if anyone had to start as a CMO for any brand, I think there are some things that you should always be looking at, no matter what it is. And I kind of saw it as a completely new role. But that's kind of how I would approach it again, even though if it was an acquisition, let's say one day Drip get acquired, I think it would be the same. I think there's some categories that I would look into. Of course, I'll look into the team as one of the first things. How's the team combination? How's the team structure? Individual like goals. Each of the team members, are they aligned with the company goals and team goals? So are individuals running in a different direction than the team or the company in general? I think goals are super important. You hear me talk about that every single day, but that's kind of the biggest friction that I've seen in almost all companies that I've worked with. I've been doing a lot of consulting work as well in the past and still do that today. And I think if you don't start with the goals, you don't know which direction that you go in. You don't know where you want to end up. And that's where the most friction will happen. And that goes all the way down, not just from a company level, but to individuals as well.
So maybe you can elaborate what do you mean when you say goals, Emil, just like broadly speaking?
I think, first of all, we can take the classic sales and marketing. Is marketing's goal to acquire SQLs, MQLs, free trials, whatever we call it, or is it revenue? Sales, is it their goal to convert them, or is their goal to have more revenue? Is the individual, the sales rep, are they performance based? Is there a commission plan there that's adding friction to marketing and sales? That's historically something that I've seen in almost all organizations, that amount of free trials is marketing valued by, and sales is valued by the revenue that they generate. Well, or the conversion rate even. Like, I've seen conversion rates in the past, and I even see that in Drip as well, where you value a sales team based on a conversion rate from SQL to customer, which can create a lot of friction to a marketing team, because you can run tests where you can get more free trials into the system, but those free trials might not convert at the same level. So aligning the goals and aligning goals to company goals, and there's a ton of goal frameworks. I don't really care which goal framework you use. There's all of the classic North Star. You have one goal. There's a OKR framework. There's hundreds of them. I'm a big fan of OKRs just because I've seen them work in so many organizations, and it's that simple for everyone to use.
How does the marketing you used to do at Sleeknote compare to what they did at Drip, and kind of what is the compromise between those two things? Or can you describe that in some sense?
Yeah, I think the marketing team on the Drip side before we were acquired and joined forces, they focused a little bit more on activating free trials within the system and creating demand instead of capturing demand. There's a, I don't think we should go too deep into creating demand versus capture demand today, but there is a lot of talk about that, and I generally agree with a lot of the like a lot of the things that people talk about these days. But I also think there is a Monday morning when all of the experts are done with talking about creating and capturing demand, where what do I do Monday morning? And I think I saw most of the Drip side were focusing on creating demand.
Okay.
And, I think you should bring a little bit of both. And on the old
Yeah.
Sleeknode side, I think we were more focused on capturing demand.
Yeah.
So bring both of them, because
Yeah.
they both make sense and you should have both of them.
What about a channel level? Kind of, I know you guys were extremely good with organic search. Was it the same for Drip, or were they bigger on other stuff?
Yeah, they're way bigger on other stuff. Like the brand is well known in the US and North America in general, and not that known. It's not really that known in Europe yet. But in the US, Drip is one of the biggest marketing automation platforms.
Okay.
So there's a well-known brand that completely different channels than what we've been used to in Sleeknode. Where in Sleeknode we had to be focusing on 2 or 3 channels. That's always been search and capturing demand through paid and other channels, which are fairly simple and no-brainers. But that's where Drip, I think, had something going that Sleeknode, you can't really compare them.
Yeah. Have they been running TV ads or like radio ads?
No.
Or what? How have they been building brand before you then?
No, but I can see there's a lot of cast that's been thrown after influencers and ads in general and agencies and conferences and so on in the past.
Yeah.
And they're paying off, but it's just difficult to measure.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where when you come in, you have to, as a new CMO, you have to be careful with just cutting everything. But at the same time, it's probably also one of the easiest things that you can do as a new CMO is to look at all of the expenses and cut some of them, because it will go directly from the bottom line.
Yeah.
So
has there been a lot of this, or is the idea let's cut something off first and then start building up again, or how have you been thinking about it?
Yeah, I don't know. I do think that when you come in as a new leader, you have to just listen a lot. Your team already know 50% of the things that you should be doing as a team. So listen a lot, ask those probing, thoughtful questions, to get some of the replies from all of the star players that most likely already know what we should be doing, instead of coming in and just saying, let's change all of these things. So at least I would like to think that I ask a lot of questions in the beginning, and I think I did. There's like weeks before we did the acquisition that we talked back and forward about everything. Everything from the simple basic stuff to website to vision to how we're different than our competitors to yada yada. And then you can take those 50-50, 50% quick wins, 50% long-term investments, because the reality is most CMOs, they last 18 months. There's a lot of data on that. So you got to show your worth pretty quickly, while you still invest long-term.
And how long are you in now? 6 months in, or how is it?
Yeah, I have a year or so left. So I'll make it worth it though. So no, jokes aside, I do really think that when you come in as a new marketing leader, you got to show something right away. That's why you were hired. But I do also think that most of your team, your new team, they know most of the things that you should be doing that you're not doing today. So listen, be humble, and then execute on it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Did you have a big say in kind of what were the metrics you have to be delivering as a marketing team, or were they kind of given to you by like a CEO saying, or CFO, these are the numbers?
I would say I had a big saying, but I think it's so simple. It's, the biggest, I would say, North Star number is so simple for me now because sales and marketing is one team.
Yeah.
So revenue
Yeah.
is the easiest number both to measure. Not to the channels. I know there's a solution out there for that, but not for the channels. It's very hard to
No.
measure
Yeah.
it by the channels. But revenue is the North Star metric, revenue growth, and there's a lot of sub metrics that we could get into, like lifetime value, customer acquisition cost, lifetime value, CAC ratio. I think that's important as well. Most underrate that. The MQLs, SQL, that's the classics. That needs to
Yeah.
be there. Open pipeline. I do think open pipeline is an underrated one as well.
So
Book
that's
demos from an outbound.
so that's deals that are, this is like an
In
SQL.
motion. Yeah,
Yeah.
deals that's in motion right now that we think most likely will close at a certain date.
Yeah.
That will give you an indication of how much pipeline do you have that's
Yeah.
upcoming. And I think that's where it gets, a little bit messy from our side as well. We could go very deep on this, but a sales motion could be different from any company, but there's a big
I think
difference
it's for hard
between
one.
someone
I think it's
starting a
hard
free
one.
trial with us with 25K list size with a average order size of 6K each, 4K a year versus someone that has a list of 500 people. I don't want to assign a sales rep, and I don't know the open pipeline to that because
Yeah.
the economics doesn't make sense.
Are they? I know you had a pretty good outbound team at Sleeknote. Did they have that at Drip as well? And is it different kind of customers they need to chase, or is it similar?
There's one sales team in Drip that both did outbound and inbound at the same
Okay.
time. I don't think that makes a whole lot of sense because you need different people to do outbound versus inbound.
Yeah.
So that's one of the changes that we did as well. So you have an outbound team and an inbound team.
Okay.
So they focus on 100% outbound, 100% inbound.
Yeah, I think this is also what we've seen with our team, is that it's so hard to time manage if you have to do both things, because then you have
It's just a different workflow. It's just
Yeah.
completely different. I could imagine for you guys as well with your order sizes.
Yeah.
I assume that they're higher than ours, but outbound might be what some would call inbound, but just requires multiple calls before it's ready to give to an inbound rep, and then an inbound rep needs to be almost a product manager to some extent because he or she should know a ton about the system.
Yeah.
And I don't think that that's the same persona. At least it's very difficult to scale with people if you need someone that can both do outbound and inbound, and it's almost impossible to do both on the same day.
I took part of an outbound meeting on Friday together with Laura, and it was kind of the dynamics. It's extremely different whether somebody comes to you because they've researched and they understand a bit what they're looking for, or you manage to book a meeting and now it has to you have 20 minutes and you need to like plow through those minutes and impress it's not good for my personality at least.
A fun fact there is that when we started outbound, I did outbound for a week myself, and it was the worst week of my life. And I thought I would be good at it, but I was so bad at it. But I now know some of the challenges that they're sitting with every day, and just the fact that an outbound team, sometimes you need to give them wins, where I think a lot of sales leaders in the past thought, well, outbound, it needs to be 100% cold, so on. But sometimes you might want to give them something that's not 100% cold, because then they also get a win. Just one yes in a day will help them be much better at the next 20 or 30 calls that they'll do the same day. So you kind of need that balance. Yeah.
I think we run mainly inbound now, and what we discovered is that we don't want to do the ice cold outbound, which is just pick a company and pick a person and then try. So the outbound we do nowadays is people showing intent by being on our website or on our G2 profile, or they download an ebook and then we try. So I don't know if you want to call that lukewarm outbounding or something like that.
I actually have that as I call it lukewarm in our GTM model. In Miro, we have like a Miro board with the entire model, and I call them lukewarm. Funny enough, it's like, and I think those are some of the best leads that an outbound team can get, and that's also where in the past I think marketing and sales, if they're not in the same team, there could be some friction by outbound might take 100% attribution for that lead, but it doesn't really matter who takes the goddamn attribution as long as it gets to a customer stage in the end. But yeah,
what about account-based marketing? Is this like really selecting a specific accounts and going for them? Is there anything on the playbooks right now?
No, I do think that there's so much opportunity for other things at the moment that on a higher level, I like account based, but it also requires you to have a higher deal size than we do right now, at least. It could, of course, improve that deal size, but I don't think that's you got to have a sales motion that already works. I think we have a sales motion that works, but it just needs to be scaled instead.
Maybe just talk through kind of how you judge ideas. So now I said ABM, and you immediately said, no, it's not up here. It's down here.
Yeah, sure. I think for me, ideas is a mix of guts. I'll start there because most people are afraid of saying that. But I'll start there. I think 50% guts. Scalability is a small part of it. I do think most things that don't scale are the ones that actually works the best and are heavily underestimated. So that's also a part of it, but I don't necessarily see it as a property that I will look at too much. So scalability isn't the biggest one. And then I would much rather look at what are the team players or the team that we have around it that can execute on it. So let's take an example. Video is something that I've been back and forward with so many times, and you and I, Steffen, we can agree video, it's here to stay. Like, obviously it's been here for 5 years and it's here to stay. But you can't, and I can't just sit and say, oh, I want video, and tell your brand team, I want video. The reality is on my brand team, I have a copywriter, I have a designer, I have a generalist, T-shaped marketer, and now 2 product marketers as well. Who's going to do the videos? So you kind of have to play the game of who is already in your team. Where do you think the future is, and hire for it as well? So you got to hire for it as well. Where do you think the future is? But you also need to have a realistic view on what skills do your current team have? And my amazing team right now, there's a lot of good copywriters. So of course the blog needs to be scaled. Like, even though, yes, do you think SEO is dead in 10 years? Hell no. Do you think it's changed? Yeah, of course. Of course it has. Do you think video is a bigger part of it? Yeah, sure. But is it right now that I will do video? No. So I don't know. I could give you a framework as well, but that framework at the end of the day, 50% based on gut feeling, your team that you have right now. Like, I don't know if I can say that word, but fuck scalability to some extent. Figure out if it works first, and you can always do it afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. That's my experience as well. Like, you can always find ways to scale as soon as you've proven that the idea works.
A good example of scalability where I've heard that in the past, like, oh, you can't send things to accounts that you can't, you shouldn't write a book and send that to accounts that have showed higher intent. That's not scalable. Someone needs to be, doing all of the packaging. You need to write a book, and it's not scalable. We wrote a book 3 years ago. That's now in one big stock, whatever. And we literally just on the Shopify sites, they buy it on the Shopify site. We do it with a discount code and they send send that shit. I don't touch it. So yes, sure, it wasn't scalable in the beginning. We did all of it on our own. We literally went to the mill with it every day in the first year. But now it's scalable. So don't stop thinking about scalable from the beginning.
Yeah, I have a similar example from when we went from having only the demo call on our website to having a free offering. Then we just started out changing the landing page of the pricing page, saying now we can click to request a free account. And what happened literally was that Lars, our CEO, he got a mail saying this person wants a free account. Lars created a free account, and then he sent an email back to the person who requested a free account. Okay, and he did that for the first month or two and set up hundreds of accounts.
It's perfect.
And then afterwards, find a solution for like automating that journey instead.
I think it's one of the excuses that I hear the most. Oh, it's not scalable. It's like there are so many ways to find a way to make it scalable when you've proven a case.
Yeah. Emil, maybe one question, if we assume some of the people listening are marketers, what are the things you would advise people to think about before saying yes to a new job? I bet you have been through a lot of these considerations before you said yes to being acquired and working on at Drip afterwards.
Yeah, I do think that first of all, it's a CEO match. If it's the CMO position, I do think that's the CEO and CMO match needs to be there. I spent probably 30 hours or 40 hours with the CEO of Drip before the acquisition were any near public. I think that's very important and very underrated.
This also goes to whatever manager you're gonna get.
Your manager, it's important, but especially as a CMO, it's very important that you're aligned with the CEO, at least to a certain extent. I do think that there's also, you got to look out for just if you agree on everything, that's not a good sign either. But there needs to be some alignment of direction and things that needs to get done. So that's number one. And number two is culture, of course, that, those are all of the classic ones, but, culture is important. And then I like to see there's something, I don't know how to describe this in a polite way, but I like to see if there's opportunities to improve something. I think that's more of a personal thing. It's like, I like to see that there's opportunities to go in and take some people, improve them, and improve in general the marketing landscape at the company. And I think there were a lot of opportunities there in Drip, and to kind of take some of the people there. There were so many good. There was so much talent there that I was very impressed by. I had a lot of conversations with the marketing leaders before the acquisition as well. I do think that that's a unique situation, so I won't talk that much about it, but it's important for me. So people, culture, I think those are the two I think it's major one. And then number three, I think you probably agree with this one, because I know from some of your previous jobs as well, what are you measured by? I do think that that's something you gotta figure out fast. Because you might
also before you start.
Yes. Of course, it is a little bit different. Let's say you're an amazing individual contributor. I'm sure some of them are watching and seeing this as well. That might be completely different. But I do think that even if you're an individual contributor, I do also think that what are you measured by in your daily work? How are you having, like, how are you successful in your role, no matter what it is?
I think it's a pretty good career hack career advice to pick places where you can clearly see a path of there's stuff I can improve there. Because if you pick a place where you don't really, like, they're great at these 7 different things, and I really don't want to change anything. Like, will you really be valued then if you don't come in and actually improve a lot of stuff?
Yeah, I think some people could see that as a negative thing. I really do think that that's no matter what position you come in at. I do think if you see opportunities that you can improve something, I feel like that should excite you. Yeah, I really think that's probably one of the biggest things for me, at least.
Yeah. Okay, guys. So if there's any questions you want to ask me or Emil, just write it in the chat now. We'll just go maybe 5 more minutes and then say that's it. So do type in if there's anything you wanna ask us. Emil, you haven't talked at all about what Drip is and who's your ideal customers. So if somebody's on the line, just describe the product and like who's the ideal customers for this.
It's a marketing automation platform. This could sound like a pitch. I'll do a 30-second, but it's a marketing automation platform, and I do think the marketing automation platform is kind of a broad. Like, I think that's one of the things that we can talk about as well. It's like, what is it? And I do think that Drip has been a little bit for everyone, but has been niched on e-com. But I don't think e-com is enough anymore. I do think that we need to niche even further down. I think the D2C space is tremendously underrated, and I don't think that there's any one that serves them well enough. So I do think that that's where we will go more or less 100% in. Nice. So the marketing automation for D2C.
I think one of the things one of the most valuable things we've done has been to like really deliberately write down what's our ideal customer profile is. Because it's painful to say we cannot sell to the whole world because there's a potential here and there's a potential here. But ever since we kind of nailed that, all the other decisions becomes 100% easier. Like, it's this type of people. Okay, then we do marketing here. Who should sales spend time on? Well, it should align with your ideal customer profile. If you build product, who are you building product for? It's these kind of people. So if you're listening and don't know your company's ideal customer profile, do raise it as a concern.
Yeah, and I do think that you need something to everyone in the team needs to wake up every morning and feel like they're religious about something at work. And I think that's one of the things that I'm working on right now, is that I think there is a problem in the market, but we just don't execute well enough on that right now. And I don't think that we're religious about it in the company internally, and we can't execute on it externally before we are internally. So it starts internal. And I do think that there's something right now in the market where everyone is focusing on transactions instead of relationships. So kind of turning that around and focusing on relationships over transactions. I think that makes a whole lot of sense as a marketing automation platform, especially when you look at some of our competitors. They only focus on transactions. So build a framework around that, where you have the customer in the middle. Like, imagine a bullseye framework where you have the customer in the middle. And you start there instead of you starting at the old school funnel where you just add more on the top of it. So you start with the customer in the center, and the center is almost like a tree that expands over time, but it starts in the middle. So that's kind of a vision framework-ish, and I know that might sound at a very high level, but it really isn't. Like, it's just, why do you wake up and go to work and is excited about it every day? Like, you gotta know that.
Cool. Last thing maybe is just to maybe reflect on what are your bigger bets for the upcoming year? What are the things we should follow from Drip and the activities from your team? I don't know if you want to disclose them or not.
Yeah, sure. I could say some of them. I think more in headlines. Of course, there's a ton of things going on, but some of the things that's on my mind right now a lot is, of course, the vision. So all of this with transactions over relationship, turn that around, have a framework that supports it. The framework is supported throughout the entire organization. So imagine this bullseye framework that everyone is using, everyone is talking about, and having a set part of strategies within those. I think that will align the entire company. So that's on my mind a lot right now. Pricing and packaging. I don't think that we're doing a good job right now with pricing and packaging in general. I think the entire discussion about capture and create demand, I'm glad that we didn't talk about that today, but we could talk about that for hours. I do think that needs to be a better split between create demand. So we'll have a conference in Q1 in Denmark. We'll have one in US Q4 next year.
Nice.
See if we can get 700 each to the one in Denmark and the same each amount in US.
Nice.
Podcast blog, of course, on my list as well. The blog already is thriving and doing well, but that's also mostly because of the Sleeknote blog and transferred to Drip. So kind of scaling that and putting new channels on top of it, but not trying to do 10 things, but just do 3 things really well. The capture part of it, kind of rethink the free trial. I think free trials, the old free trial system is broken to some extent. Like you start a free trial, on a marketing automation platform. You have to upload your list with all of your people. You have to design a new email. You have to do all of the segmentation, workflows, and so on. You have 14 days. Here you go. By the way, if you're not done with it, you can buy afterwards. Like I don't think that makes a whole lot of sense. And are you ready to upload your list with 5 million people on it?
No,
not really. Do you want to see dummy data? Do you want to see maybe a sandbox environment and so on? Yes, I think you do. Kind of rethinking the sales motion in general and the trial motion. And I do also think that there is potential for, potential acquisitions or partnerships in the near, in the future.
Wonderful. All right. Time is up now. Emil, thank you so much for taking time and doing this conversation with me. With better beer, just to disclose that we can keep doing a live every week until Christmas. So let's see if we make it or not.
Not with me every week. Just to be clear.
Every week.
That was not the bet.
No, and I have to buy you the beer if we don't. So I feel like it's a win-win situation. All right, Emil,
and thanks for everyone watching. Connect on LinkedIn, by the way. I'll reach out.
See you.
Bye-bye.